All right, this section we're going to talk about an introduction to an equation, introduction to equations. With this introduction to equations, we're not really focusing on the process of how to solve them. We're focusing on just a basic introduction so that later on we can work with the equations. We can work with them later. So with this section, what we're trying to do is we're trying to develop the concept of algebra is all about patterns, and we want to focus on these patterns so that we can hopefully develop an equation. Because if you can develop an equation with a pattern, then you can actually make predictions later on. So this very first problem, this getting started problem, what we're doing is we're analyzing a pattern here. We're taking a look at, hey, in this situation, we have an animal shelter that's doing a fundraiser, and they want to earn $7,500. And because of startup costs, they actually start at negative $500. So each week, you can analyze the pattern that's going on. So from week 1 to week 2, hopefully you can notice that they gained $1,000. From week 2 to week 3, hopefully you can notice that they gained $1,000. So now if I was to jump over to week 4, they're probably going to be sitting at, if it's jumping up $1,000, they're going to be sitting at $2,500. So they're going to have 2,000, most likely $2,500 by the end of week 4. Now that's kind of an assumption that we're making there. So now I can go to week 5, week 6, week 7, and I can just kind of basically just draw it all out to show myself how much money that they're actually making here. And hopefully I can figure out, well, how many weeks will it take then for them to reach $7,500? Now this is something that we can draw it out, we can create a table, we can organize our information. But it's really best, this type of situation is best if we can come up with an equation. So that's kind of what we're focusing on. We're saying, hey, you know what? Sometimes it's better to come up with an equation so that I can just calculate it out and figure out exactly when will they have $7,500. So what exactly is an equation? An equation is a mathematical sentence that uses an equal sign. We've already talked about expressions, but now what we're going to do is we're going to put an equal sign in them. So essential understandings, you can use equations to represent all kinds of relationships in algebra. Algebra is all about patterns and relationships and formulas. So what we're going to do is we're going to use equations to help us represent these things. So if we're going to use equations, it's important for us to understand how to solve them. But I told you already that we're not really going to focus on solving them at this point. So problem number 1, classifying each one of these equations. We want to classify it as true, false, or an open sentence. An open sentence means that it has a variable in it. If it has a variable in it, it may be true or it may be false. So we are specifically stating, is this true, is it false, or is it open? Okay, so if I take a look at letter A, I can very specifically say 24 plus 18 is equal to 20 plus 22. So I can specifically say that, yes, this right here is a true statement. For letter B, that one there, I can specifically say that, hey, you know what? This is definitely a false statement because 7 times 8 does not equal 54. 7 times 8 is actually equal to 56. So I can specifically state that, you know what? This is false. And then in part C, take a look at part C. Part C is an equation. It's 2x minus 14 equal to 54. I can't say whether it's true. I can't say whether it's false. So part C, I have to specifically state that, you know what, this is an open sentence. It's open because there's a variable in there. So if I take a look at number 1, in number 1 I can classify these as true, false, or open. Part A, I can specifically state that that is an open sentence because I don't know whether it's true, I don't know whether it's false. Part B is 16 minus 7, which is 9. 9 is equal to 4 plus 5, which is 9, so I can specifically state that part B is true. And then part C, 32 divided by 8 is 4. 2 times 3 is 6, so I can specifically state that part C is false. So this one was false. This one was true. And this one was open. All right. Now, solutions of equations. we're going to talk about just some generic solutions. So solution of an equation containing a variable is a value of the variable that makes the equation true. So we are trying to look for a value that specifically makes this true right here. So they're asking you, is x equal to 6 a solution? So if x was 6, does it make this true? That's what this problem is saying. So what we need to do is we need to say, all right, this problem is 2 times x plus 12. In other words, they want us to do 2 times 6 plus 12. If x was 6, does it make it true? So let's take that. 2 times 6. 2 times 6 is 12. 12 plus 12 is 24. And you know what? 24 does not equal 32. So we can specifically say that, hey, you know what? This right here is false. It does not make it true. So we can specifically state that this is false. If I take a look at number 2 down here, is m equal to half a solution of the equation 6m minus 8 equal to negative 5? So when it says a solution of the equation, they are simply asking you, does it make it true or does it make it false? So 6 times m, in other words, 6 times a half minus 8, does it equal negative 5? 6 times a half is 3, because that's the same thing as 6 over 2. 6 over 2 is equal to 3. So 3 minus 8 is negative 5. So since this over here equals negative 5, negative 5 is equal to negative 5, I can specifically state that yes, this is true. And now in problem number 3, they're trying to start to get you to formulate, they're trying to get you to take word problems and formulate equations out of them. So what we need to do is we need to pull key pieces of information out of these word problems. So multiple choice. An art student wants to make a model of the Mayan Great Ball Court in Chichen Itza. The length of the court is 2.4. All right, so specifically read this stuff. It says the length of the court is 2.4 times its width. A couple sections ago, we talked about it translating. So this is going to help us out a ton. The length of the court is 2.4 times the width. So if I was to write that out, the length of the court is 2.4 times the width. Now, the word is, that was one of those key words. It directly translates into an equal sign. So the length, I would probably put the length as being L. Length is 2.4 times the width. So times directly translates into multiplication. So 2.4, come on, 2.4 times the width. The length is 2.4 times the width. We can directly translate that into an equation, and we can write out our equation because they tell us that the length is 54. So since they tell us the length is 54, we can go ahead and plug that 54 in. So we found that out because of this over here. So they're telling us, specifically telling us, that the length is 54. So let's put that into our equation. And now we have our setup for our equation. 54 equals 2.4w. So now down here in number 3, the length of the ball court at La Venta is 14 times the height. So the length is 14 times the height. That sentence right there directly translates into L equals 14H. And now if we keep reading, write an equation that can be used to find the height of a model that has a length of 49 centimeters. So they're telling us that this L, the length, is 49 centimeters. So if we were going to write this out, we would actually write it as 49 equals 14H. And that would be our equation for that situation. Now here they want you to use a little bit of mental math to try to figure out some of these. So what number plus 8 equals 12? What number plus 8 equals 12? So that would be this equation right here. X plus 8 equals 12. So think of a number, and when you add 8 to it, it needs to equal 12. So I can go through and I can say, all right, let's try 3, let's try 2, let's try 1. Oh, I'm getting further away, so let's build it up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, that one works. So they want you to use a little bit of mental math to try to figure out what that solution is. What number divided by 8 equals 9? Well, let's just work it out. Let's try 49, 50, 51, and just keep going through numbers and just guess and check until you get to the right answer. 72 divided by 8 equals 9. All right. Now, one way to help you out when working out some of these problems is you can create a table. So take a look at the table that they made. The equation was 5n plus 8 equals 48. And they want you to just put some numbers in there. So 5n plus 8 equals 48. Just start picking numbers. So here they decided to start with 5. You may want to start with 6, you may want to start with 1, you may want to start with 10. But just pick some numbers, plug it in, and work it out until you finally get this equation to actually work out. So if I just guessed some numbers, eventually I will hopefully get to that point where I figure out what the answer is. And that's what they did down here as well. They just guessed a bunch of numbers. Here they ended up using negative numbers. They just guessed a bunch of numbers until they got it to work out. All right, so now in this, for this section, you might want to read through these. It's good to know these. It's good to know these. So these right here are things you really want to focus on, and you really want to make sure you understand those. And then for the homework, let's do 7, 8, 9, and 10. How about? And then we'll do 20 through 23. So do 20, 21, 22, 23. And then we'll do 27 and 28. We'll do 31. Here they want you to make a table, so make sure you show me a table. And we'll do number 39. And then there was one more. Oh, number 62. But for number 62, I only want you to come up with an equation that models the situation.